Looking around. Hello, hello. I'm Teresa Coates. I'm the National Educator for Shannon Fabrics, and we are here again for Sew Together Tuesday. So we have been all over. As you know, we came down. We're heading south. We are not beating the cold, though, and we are currently in Iowa, where it's, I don't know, 20. Is it above 30 yet today?
It is. We're above freezing, just
a
barely.
It's real cold here. So anyway, we are in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which is southern Iowa. Is that true? Central. Thanks. I can't remember where we are on a map anymore, really. So we're in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which I have been here before. So we're at Inspired to Sew, and I was here about 4 years ago or so when I was making a trip through Iowa, and I stopped here, and this is where I found my Karen K. Buckley scissors. So that's how long I've been loving those. So we are here with the owners. So come on in, you guys. So this is Therese and Jill, and they are the co-owners of Inspire to Sew. And I didn't get a chance to talk to you guys at all before we started about this. So tell me about the store. How long have you guys been around?
So we opened in 1999, and we opened in Pine Needles Quilt Shop up in Cresco, Iowa.
Oh, that's right. I saw that on the blog. So if you didn't get a chance to read the blog Spotlight, that is on shannonfabrics.com, and you can see more information about them. I do remember that. So you had the store there, and then you opened the store here. And 2003. And then you let go of that store, if I remember right?
Yep, and
correct?
Actually, they still have friends running it. And,
that's awesome.
So
that's great. So how big is your store? Because it's
7,500 square feet.
Yeah, it's a big store. It's a big store. And if you saw the pictures yesterday that we posted on I Love Cuddle, it's a tall store too. So there's lots of quilts all over the wall, tons of fabric here. It's a great store. And you guys sell a lot of cuddle.
Yes.
Right?
Everything cuddle.
So what is your favorite thing to make with cuddle?
I like backings on quilts and standard quilts. That's one of my favorite things. But I'm really excited about doing it.
The stuffed animals are seriously one of my favorite things to make. They're so fun and they're so different. I love that. So, so what are the plans for the store? You guys co-own it?
Yes.
We're gonna keep going with that one for a while. You guys sell Berninas, right?
Sell Bernina and baby lock machines.
Okay.
And do lots of classes and like to bring in educators like yourself.
And I'm so happy you did.
Yeah, to help inspire all of our people.
Yeah, great. Okay, so you can go to their website. What is your website?
InspiredToSew.com.
Okay, and they have a kit for the project today. So we have a link for that. Hopefully it'll show up in the comments or something like that. But if you go to inspiredtosew.com and you dig around just the tiniest bit, you'll totally find it. And they have a kit that includes everything for today. So make sure you do that. You guys have a Facebook page, of course. I know you have like a Friends of Inspired to Sew. Is that what the group is called?
Yep.
Yeah, so if you're localish, that's a great way. I actually joined it years ago when I came by. So that's a great way to see what other people are doing with the shop. Okay, and then the website, do you guys have anything else you guys do? Do you guys do lives or anything like that?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
yeah, our goal is to help everybody be inspired to sew.
Right, so do you have a schedule for your lives?
We do it every day right now.
Okay.
Every weekday.
So that's what we're doing.
9 a.m. Central. Yeah,
every day.
Weekdays.
Every day. So, and that's on Facebook.
Different team members, yeah.
All right, great. So make sure you follow them on Facebook and you can catch what's new in the store. They have a huge selection. It's a really big store. So I'm very excited, and their cuddle selection. So thank you very much. All right. So let's make Ben the beginner bear. All right. Before we get too far, I actually remembered. Speaking of beginner, it's a beginner box, and we're going to give one away. So if you share the video, we will pick a winner, and I think we're going to pick a winner on both. Is that what we're doing again? I think so. On Facebook and on YouTube, we'll pick a winner. We will send you a beginner box kit. This is one of my favorites. It's a great way to get started with cuddle. There's 3 one-yard cuts in there, one of a print, one of a solid, one of a luxe cuddle. And then there's the needles, the thread, and the pins in there. All right? So make sure, share away, tell all your sewing friends, all that good stuff. All right. Anything else I need to tell them?
I think we're ready to start a show.
All right, let's do it.
Hey, thanks everybody for coming. We have a great audience.
We do have a great
audience.
There
we go. Look at all those folks.
And thanks to Inspired to Sew for doing
back
this.
there and wave for me.
Yay.
Thanks. Awesome.
Hello, home audience. Oh, so okay, so this one, it's going to be a doozy because we're doing the whole project. So get yourself a cup of coffee and chill out. We're going to be here for a while. It's going to be good though. This has been the beginner bear, and this is a pretty new pattern from Funky Friends Factory. And if you've been watching for a while, you know I love Funky Friends Factory stuffed animal patterns. And we've done a few other tutorials that you can find on YouTube. I think this is the first bear that we've done as a tutorial, though, and I love it. She has 4 or 5 bear patterns. This is a new one. It's called Ben the Beginner Bear. And the reason I chose this pattern to do for this episode is because it is a great beginner project. So if you have not sewn stuffed animals, and particularly the Funky Friends variety, this is a great way to learn some of the techniques that she uses in all of the patterns, to learn how to work with her patterns and also how to make a really simple little bear. So that's what we're going to do. Okay.
He's got him by the ears. Is he okay?
And he's fine. He's fine. I just want to make his ears stand up. Okay. And we'll talk about some other things, including his little sweater and how you can make something similar. All right. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and trace out all of your pattern pieces. I have done that. You can show them.
Yeah, look at all that.
So I have traced and cut out all of my patterns except for one, which is the belly, so the tummy piece. So we're going to do that. I'll show you guys how to do it. We'll talk about cutting it, and we'll go from there. So one of the cool things, too, about this pattern is that she has areas that are appropriate for embroidery. So this one is different than a lot of hers, that it only has a single front piece. So a lot of hers have a 2-piece front that will seam together in the front. This one has a whole one, so you have this big space for embroidery. We covered it up with a sweater today, but we did do embroidery on the foot pads, and I'll show you that later. But this is kind of a cool thing. So this is a great way to make like a bear for a newborn or whatever that you want to make something memorable. You can set their name, their birth date, weight, all that good stuff that you can do. So you can make it kind of cool. So the first thing we want to do is trace it all out. I've got my Sharpie pen. I was checking which way the nap goes. Okay, this middle part is harder to tell, doesn't matter, but this part I can see actually has a nap, so it goes down. Okay, so when I'm doing this, I put a mark on my fabric, and then I trace out all of the pieces, and then I cut them out. All right, so I'm just going to trace around this. Ben's just going to chill out.
What you making? What are you doing?
It's going to be his brother. Okay, so I'm just going to trace around this. Now, this is the part that people want to skip, is that they don't want to do all of this transferring of the markings. And I'm going to tell you that if you don't, it's going to make it a lot harder. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put a dot and an H. I'll do it over here. Dot and an H. And an N up here. Let's see here. And J, P. And this is all going to become very important when I'm putting this together, because it's going to tell me to sew from this letter to that letter. And I have to know what those letters are by having it on here. The other thing I'll do is write the name on it. So when I'm looking at it here, that sort of makes some sense to me. Okay, because otherwise these pieces like this doesn't look like anything, but it's actually an inner leg. So sometimes the pieces are very funky shaped. Maybe that's where she gets the name from. But they're very odd shapes, and so you really do have to kind of know what they are. So one of the things that I do is I write the name on it. I write it with a Sharpie. It's no big deal unless you're using like a Cuddle 3. So if you're using the thin Cuddle, I would suggest you use something like a water-soluble marker that will be able to come off and won't show through at all. On the Luxe Cuddle, I've never had the Sharpie show through on any of it. Okay.
Hey, can we try something?
Yeah.
Audio is fine,
okay.
which is shocking, everybody. Thanks. But we keep kind of coming in and out on the video.
Okay.
People are saying it's freezing and getting a little pixelated. So I'm going to take me all the way back out and come back in.
Okay. Do we want to kill the back camera?
Yeah. Michael, if you can hear me, just go ahead and kill the BTS camera and throw up something on the screen for me for just a second, and we're gonna reset and see what happens. Okay. Thank you. Okay, we are back. Let's see if that improves anything.
Okay. We're gonna try. Is it any better?
Well, there we go.
Okay.
Let's see if that's any better.
It was the audio or the video was so good this morning when we checked it.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least the audio is good.
It's still clunky. Michael, can you take out the video for the BTS? Or no, you can't. You took it out, but it's still running over there. It's still real clunky. Nope, not better.
Not better. Okay, let me check something.
Okay, if we have to start over, we might. Okay,
interesting.
Choppy.
Just as choppy. Fascinating.
Okay, what if can you do it just through your camera on your cellular service? If we take everything else out?
Not in here. Feel like it's worse. All right, hang on. So let's try that. I'm a little concerned about that.
It can't be any worse than it is now.
Okay, everybody, we're probably gonna go away again. See what happens. Is that any better, guys?
Hello? I think I see movement.
Okay, it's going to be a long show. I want to get this right to start with because
Okay.
the tutorial part of this is great.
It really is, and we don't want to lose it. Okay.
Yeah, and we don't
Are
want
we
to have
good?
to take everybody to the campground again like
We really
last
don't.
week.
All right, so are we good?
All right, we're going to go with this.
Okay, so I'm going to reiterate just a little bit in case we need to chop off the first part. Okay, just for our video
Continuity.
editing. Yes, exactly. So the first thing I did is trace everything out and then cut it out. So I want to make sure that I'm going to go ahead and show you this. So I'm going to go ahead, trace around it with my Sharpie pen, and then make sure that I transfer all of the markings and write what the piece is. Okay, these patterns, I've done that thing that I do before, that I stick a little bit of, what do you call it, packing tape on it, kind of laminate it a little bit, and that makes it wear a little bit better. You can also trace them out or trace them onto cardboard. Depends on how many times you're going to make it. All right, so now I'm going to cut it out. So if you have watched before, you know that I like to cut my Luxe Cuddle with a blade or with the little scissors so that I can not make such a mess. So I'm going to cut a little bit of it and show you how that works. Oh yeah, good. My blade is fairly sharp there. Okay, so this is the Olfa SAC-1 blade, which I like a lot. It's trying to get in here and see what's happening. So this is the Olfa SAC-1, which I really love, and you can see the way that it works is it leaves most of this nap on there, okay, which is super nice. But one of the things that I've noticed when making the stuffed animals is sometimes this extra nap can be a little bit frustrating because there's just so much. We only have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So this is a time that using the rotary cutter is actually super helpful.
So wait, you said 1/4 inch seam allowance?
Yes, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm jumping ahead. You started it.
I did, but that's part of it, and so I almost always cut, because see how nice that and even that is? We're going to have a mess, so I'm totally going to have to vacuum. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that, which will be a little chunky because it's a rotary around a corner. So I'll show you with my Karen K. Buckley's. You can also just go ahead and cut it with your scissors and not being as careful as we normally want to do, where you just get it under the backing, but just whack it off and it'll give you a clean edge. Okay, so with the stuffed animals, this is generally how I do it, but you can totally cut it all with the blade too. So either way, okay? So right. You get to decide which one is more important to you, the mess, not having a mess, or having really sharp edges.
And really, the sharp edges aren't going to be in the result at all. It's just about how easy is it going to be for you to sew.
It's just visually.
Okay.
So I'm just shaking a mess down here on the floor.
Oh yeah, I see a whole little brown cloud.
A little cloud. Yep. Okay. Go. Okay. So now we've got our little belly. So the other thing is the part that helps is if you write all of these things on there, it actually helps you figure out the what is it called? The orientation for the pieces, because sometimes they're so weird you don't know which way is up. Okay, so I've got all of them done. Here was another example. Here it is. So this was an ear that I cut out with the blade and an ear that I cut out with the rotary cutter. So all of this is not a big deal, and you can totally leave it on there, but just make sure that you're looking at the backing when you're doing your seam allowances, and don't let that bother you.
And if you were doing some other project where you were using like a self-binding blanket where this was going to be a raw edge showing, where you were going to
Then I
top
like to
stitch
do it
this
that way.
down, then you would leave this because it's great at hiding the edge.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So it is kind of, you know, 6 of one, half dozen of another. You can do it either way depending on what suits you. Okay? All right. So the first thing we're going to do is sew some ears together. And I'm going to start with that. So there's my pieces. I've got 2 of them. And we're just going to do one of all of the pieces today. And then I'll put something together later, but I've already got some of them sewn. Okay, so I'm going to start here at my ends.
So you've got a C3 and a Luxe Cuddle,
Yes.
right sides together. I see it.
Okay, so you could absolutely do this with 2 of the same. Is that what his is? Yeah. So his are the same on both sides.
Hi, buddy.
Okay, so his ears, same on both.
Got it.
All right, so you can absolutely do it that way, or you can do it this way. What am I going to do this time?
If you guys haven't figured this out yet, Ben the Beginner Bear is literally my favorite stuffed animal ever.
And we have a lot of stuffed animals now.
we got a whole RV full of stuffies, and Ben is my dude.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I like him. All right, so I've got those pinned together. So like I said, I started at end, pin at the other end, and then I pin in between. All right.
And you
so
are pinning perpendicular.
I am. I'm pinning perpendicular to the raw edge because it's a curve. Okay.
Got it.
So let's go over to the machine. So the other weird thing that I've got is that I am using a regular foot. So most of the time when I'm sewing with Cuddle, I want to use the walking foot. Okay. Because it will do the whole lifting thing. The reason I don't use it with the stuffed animals is I found it sometimes gets in the way and I can't see as well on the little seams. And so I just use a regular foot and reduce my presser foot pressure. And that seems to work pretty well. So that's just my technique. It doesn't have to be yours. Okay. And we are going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance because that's what's called for in the pattern. So if you've watched before, you know, like if you watch the other tutorials, any of them, a lot of the stuffed animals, I will make them bigger. But I always make them first at 100%, and I just keep that seam allowance. It's easy enough for me. But if I make it at 100% and it's difficult, then I will up it and I will enlarge the pattern and try a bigger size. Okay, I was talking with Angela, is her name, and we were talking about a little lammy that she made from the Funky Friends pattern, and she made it at 120%. She said she would have made it bigger. This one is just at 100% and it's fine. So it really kind of depends on the project. So the next thing I'm going to do is make sure that I caught everything, because using the 1/4 inch seam allowance, we always talk about you use a 1/2 inch seam allowance to give yourself some wiggle room, and this is wise because it's
You're
real close,
really
right
close to the edge.
But I caught it, so I'm going to let it be. On this side, my seam allowance looks really nice. Okay, so don't let it fool you.
But you do have to kind of double check and make sure your
You gotta double
construction is
check.
solid.
And kind of, run your fingers along it. If you catch it now, it's much easier to fix than if you catch it later. All right. So with this pattern, we're using the Cuddle. So there are definitely some things that we do differently. One of them is we don't clip these seams or don't clip the seam allowance. So normally if you were using cotton, you would need to make some little V's in here to make it turn. With this, we just flip it out. We're fine. But then the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and fluff that using my little stiletto here.
What is that little stiletto for those folks that are new?
Yes, this is my by Annie stiletto. It's the stiletto and precision tool, which made me realize, Michael, we never did the ingredients list.
Oh, wow.
So if you want to plop that up there, I'll talk those over while we're doing this, while we're fluffing. So you can get the Ben the Beginner Bear kit, which includes the pattern, all of the fabrics, the felt, the stuffing, and the safety eyes. Super great that you get everything you need. You'll also want to make sure that you've got a 9014 stretch needle, polyester thread, felt tip marker, obviously, because we're going to trace all that stuff out, rotary cutter and mat, micro serrated scissors or craft knife. That's what I was talking about with the Olfa. SAC-1 are my Karen K. Buckley scissors. Long flower head pins, fabric clips are helpful for some people. I don't use them that much, but some people really love them. Stiletto from by Annie, and a walking foot if you want it. So optional should be on there. And it isn't, but it should be. Okay. All right, so now we've got an ear done. Look at how cute that ear is now.
Did we show a picture of the way the kit comes?
Oh no, let me show them the kit real quick.
Here we go. I'm just gonna come right up here. This is
Ta-da!
great.
So this is the kit. Comes with the pattern. This is shown in cotton. And then you get the fabric. You can choose a couple of different kinds of fabric. And then it has the fabric for the sweater, which we'll talk about at the end.
That doesn't seem like bear color. What's going on with that?
We'll talk about the sweater at the end.
All right.
Okay. We got to make people stay for something. It's going to be the sweater. Okay. So we got our ears. I've got 2 of them. We're going to set them aside. That's that whole like magic. So again, let me show you. Just flip this stuff out. And I just kind of scratch it up. And to me, that makes all the difference in how nice it looks at the end. And you don't have to be super gentle. Just scratch it. Okay. All right. So now we're going to do the face. This is when I was talking about pieces are weird. So this is the face and this is the snout. This is a little bit different because it has darts in it, which not all stuffed animal patterns do, but this is what gives it some shape to his face. And I really love his face on this one. So we'll work this through. You can see to my markings. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is our darts here. Okay, and I'm going to sew all of these darts. Oh, hold on, I got more pins over there. All the pins. I brought out my Zirkle though. So hopefully I can keep track of them today because it's going to be a lot of back and forth.
Hey, Jenny, I see you with your technical issues. Welcome back. We feel you.
We feel you. So hard we feel you. All right. So I just bend these in half, and then I'm going to stick a couple of pins through. In the pattern, she does a really good job of explaining why you want to use a lot of pins. And even when she does this in cotton, and when Pauline from Funky Friends Factory, she's going to pin just as much with the cotton to keep it where you want it to be. So we're going to do that with the cuddle as well.
So let's clarify something. The kit that we just showed you is not a Shannon Fabrics kit, nor is it a Funky Friends Factory kit. It is an Inspired to Sew kit, and there should be a link popping up in comments and hopefully on the screen, and you can go and pick that kit up, and they will happily mail it to you.
Exactly. So sometimes I do things that aren't necessarily the easiest for everyone. Sorry. I pinned all 3 of the darts. I'm just going to keep them out of the way, and I'm going to pin one at a time. Okay. But I just double pinned them. Going to stitch along here.
I think
you
this
can
is
definitely
actually
do them all at the same time. You can do them one at a time.
This is like the first stuffy pattern that I've ever seen have darts in it that you've sewn.
I feel like there was one other somewhere, but I've sewn a lot of stuffies.
Not on camera.
That's true. Okay, so the dart isn't really hard. We're just going to stitch forward, stitch backward, and then we're just trying to catch a little, just a little spot in there. Okay. So these darts, I care a lot less than if they were apparel darts. So do it differently if you were sewing clothing. Okay, we're just sewing this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And what I've done here too, I forgot to mention, so I have moved my needle over. So my needle is over at the 4 position on my Bernina here, and it is moved way over so that I can get a 1/4 inch seam allowance right here and use my foot. So now all of that fabric right here in my 1/4 inch is right on this foot, or on this tread. Okay, so my feed dogs are right here, which means all the fabric is right on the feed dog. And that's why I do that and move it over so that it's on top of that. Okay, that's my reasoning. All right, so now we got all of those done. That's pretty good, right? Okay, we have 2 more. Because they never end. No, I'm just kidding. But it will make it so his face, like all of a sudden you can see how it has shape?
It's already starting to be 3-dimensional.
Okay, so that's what gives his face a whole bunch of its shape. And it is really, it's one of my favorite faces. So we'll show a couple of other. He's just adorable. I mean the bear.
He's killing me.
Yeah. super cute. But the faces vary, and we'll bring down those other ones and talk about those in a little bit too, so we can kind of compare.
Oh,
Okay.
you mean those guys up there in the peanut gallery?
Yeah, those guys.
Got it.
They're not the star of the show today, and they're sad. Okay. All right, so these are little bitty darts. I'm just going to go
I
ahead
think I have
and
the
sew it.
Muppets theme song in my head right now.
Really?
Anybody else?
All right, now so the other one, did I catch? Yep. Okay, so another little one. And I kind of just let it hold for a second. That's how I backstitch right there, which is really lame, but I just don't let it move forward.
Oh, you just
I just
got
hold
it.
it.
You're just holding it in place.
And it has to stitch a couple times, and then I let it move forward. I'm also using a slightly smaller stitch length. So normally we up our stitch length. So there's a couple things with the stuffed animals that are different. So 2.5 is what I use on here. If your machine doesn't move through very well at 2.5, bump it up to 3. But I do it small because we're going to stuff it. So it's going to get a whole lot of pressure on those seams. So normally if you were doing this out of cotton, you'd make it even smaller. But out of the Cuddle, we just do it at a 2.5, and that works great. All right. Yes. Oh, she asked if there was an advantage to using clover pins, and I will say yes, because they're the best pins ever. So yes, one of the perks of what I get to do is try out a lot of different products, and so I've been able to try a lot of different pins, and I will say that these are my favorite. They are long, they are sharp, the heads don't fall off. It's fabulous. So they're great, and they're easy to maneuver here.
And all of those things that you mentioned that these are good at, some pins aren't necessarily good at.
Exactly.
Even though they look like the same
Very
form
similar.
factor,
Yeah.
not all
And we've
pins are
talked
created equal.
Right, and we've talked about it before, and you can kind of see in here probably how far the needle goes, or the pin goes into the head, and that's really the most important thing about not losing the heads, is the heads go in really far, and that's how you can tell clovers from others. That's the biggest tell. Okay, so I put a couple of pins in where my B mark is, because that's what I want to line up. I have a hard time lining it up unless I have something really to look at. So I put those in there so that I can just easily line up the pins. Then I take one of them out, stab it through both, and take the other pin out. Okay, so then I have my centers matched. So then we're going to go ahead and we are going to match these. And it seems like they shouldn't, because they are very different sizes here. So for my center out, it looks like they won't match, but they will. And this is actually was that weird shape. So you're matching a bigger circle to a smaller circle, but that's what's going to make his snout. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to match my ends. And then I'll match my other end over here. Okay. And then I'll go in between. And I'm going to do it the way that I tend to do it for most things, is where I'm going to pin in the middle. So I'm going to pin the center of that. And then I'm going to divide that up, pin in the center of that. And over here. And then if I need to pin more, I can just pin more. And the more you pin, the less it's going to wiggle on you. Okay? And if you pin back and forth like this, it keeps it really flat. So you can see here where I have like gaps between my pins and how I have all this space. That's going to give it space to kind of push forward and do weird things, and I don't want it to do that. So if I pin in between, it'll keep that from happening. Okay, so it's going to be a bunch of pins. I think in the pattern, she says 17 is what you need for this. So yeah, she doesn't fool around with pins either, and I love that. Use all the pins, all of them. Okay, so we're just going to divide it in half, and then I will go from the other direction to keep it lay flatter.
Oh,
So,
it has been noted that you are using, what is that?
the Zirkle.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
You don't normally use the Zirkle on the show, but you definitely have used it.
Yes,
For
I
personal
really
sewing,
love it. It's
yeah.
just, it's heavy, so that's part of it. But you can see here how it's pinned, how much space is there in between, and when I've redone it with another layer, how flat that gets. So that's what we're going to do, okay? And it really does make it so that it just sews together easier. So even though it seems like a pain to have that many pins, it will make it easier for you in the end. And then those curves go together super nicely. Okay, I'm going to sew it from this side because I've got a lot of stuff on this side. If I sew it from here, it's easier to look at, but what's going to happen is I'm going to get puckers on the other side. So if I sew it from this side, I can see what's happening and make sure I don't get any puckers. I'm also going to use my stiletto to make sure I can get it to lay flat.
Got it. There was a question. Sometimes I've seen you do this, and do you need to sort of swish the nap back inside of the seam?
I don't. I like really rarely do it. Yeah, I don't. If it were a longer nap, I would probably try to do that more to make sure that it isn't caught and I don't have to pull it out. But this stuff is short enough. This is the Luxe Cuddle Glacier. And it's short enough. I think it's 15 millimeters, so it just swoops right underneath. It's no problem. Okay, and you can see it goes over this just fine. If I get any little puckers or anything, I can use my stiletto, hold it down, let it feed underneath it. Okay, just whoop it right through there, which is great because it really is. It looks like they won't fit because they're such weird shapes, but it totally works. It didn't make the little chunky sound. Okay.
Mind your business, machine.
Okay. All right. So now it looks even less like a face. All right. It just starts becoming like this. Like really, stuffed animals are so funny because they become something as you go, but for a while they just look like nothing. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew up the bottom. So this is the inside. I've got my markings for my eyes. Okay, this is the markings for when I can do the embroidery. I always put these on here, but I have not yet figured out how to actually use them once I've got this stuffed. So I just put them on there because I transfer all the markings. But on the outside, I just aim for a spot. That's all I do.
Got it.
If you wanted to be very precise about it, I don't have the pin right here, but you could put like a safety pin right at the end of those to make sure that you had that marked for later. I just eyeball it and hope for the best. Okay, I often.
Wait, is
we'll
that,
talk
is, that,
about,
is that the mouth line?
That's
Is
the
that,
mouth,
which,
right? Which
honestly,
I don't
you don't
usually
even
do.
Look, he doesn't.
I'm a
doesn't
cheater.
even need it. Like you could do that, but what? But certainly
But
not
why?
necessary. Like you've made 2 of these now, and I think, and neither of them have had the face lines on.
I did it on the blue one, which we'll show later. But the blue one I did a mouth on it. You can't see it at all. So that's why I'm like, what's the point? It's so much work. I'm like, I don't care. One less thing to do. So now we're going to sew this whole mouth shut. And as you can see, this is another kind of a shaper. So it's going to make his face do something else. So it kind of goes away from that mustachioed look that I had right there. And I should probably make sure I've got, before I get too far beyond here, I want to make sure I've got all the sides caught. Whoopsie. Okay, so here it's a little close. I'm actually going to go over that and make sure that because this is where his face gets stuffed, and I don't want to pull that and have that come out later because that will not be a good one to fix.
Is the way the pattern's laid out because you've added letters to everything? Is it basically alphabetical order or no?
Not even close.
Yeah, don't do that.
Not even close.
I think I remember her having a swear about that.
Yeah, this is C to G. This is not even close to alphabetical. No, but she tells you in the pattern, like what letter to what letter. And so if you don't transfer those marks, it gets real hard. And there's one part when we do the legs that we'll go over that will get even more confusing if you're not careful. Okay. All right, so I just went over that again. Like I've said, if you ever look at the inside of my stuffed animals, you'd be appalled at how many seams are in there. I just go over stuff, fix it. Okay, the same thing.
Did you have to change the foot pressure?
Yes.
Especially since you aren't using the walking foot. Does that change things?
Yep. So normally I drop it down to a 50, and I think it's at a 40 right now. That's that number right.
Where's that number right there? I see it right there.
Yep. And all I do is you should be able to tap that, and then I reduce it there.
Gotcha.
Okay. Tap it, it'll go away. All right. And that's really important with the Bernina. It makes a huge difference. All right. So now you can see he's starting to get a little face. This is his snout. Okay. So one of the things that's different about this, would you grab that light teddy bear for me? One of the things that's different about this, about this teddy bear that's different from the other ones. So something like this. This is the Izzy the Insomniac, which they also have the pattern for here. But his face is just constructed here. So one of the things that I found is that his face can be a little flat. It's hard to get the stuffing in here and get it to stay. So this one has a really cool technique that we're going to show you.
I like him too, though. He's pretty cute. He's
pretty
a completely different
His
dude.
little nose is crooked. There we go. Sorry, buddy. Okay, so this one I went and fluffed. Fluffed that middle seam, which you can see there's more we can fluff out. Okay, one of the reasons why I don't always sew those mouths is because there's so much fluff here that I have to like go over it a few times to get the black to show up. So I really do just take the lazy way out there. Okay. Just going to fluff that all up. And then it all just hides. See, that center seam is just gone. I love that. Okay, so now we're going to put the eyeballs in. So the eyes are not difficult.
Assuming you can find them in all of your stuff.
Right, and you can get them in the kit. Right. You will get them in the kit, and they were nice enough to give you 4 in the kit. In case you mess one up, okay? So I will tell you, if you get one of these on there and it's in the wrong position or something, you just cut this. Just stick your scissors under, cut this, and it'll come out. Okay? That's the trick for that one.
You can't save it.
You can't save it, no. So this one you have some extras so that should you need that, you can actually do it. So in the pattern, she says you can do something that, because I like to just, try things, spur of the moment. I haven't done before, but we're going to do. So this is a little bit smaller eye than what the pattern actually calls for, because eyes are sometimes hard to find. But she has this great thing. So you can cut the eyes out of felt like this and put them on there just like that. Or you can cut them out of felt, put the eyeball through there, and it will look like a bigger eye.
Oh, but it'll still have the little shininess of being plastic. That's cool.
So, I wonder if you could do that with like white and have it look like
a really cartoony sort of eye. Gosh, exactly. I don't know.
So see, it's a bigger eye now. See?
Got it. Yeah, you went from like how big? How many millimeters?
12, and then it calls for an 18, and that's part of what she likes is the big eye for this. You could totally do it with whatever size you want. But this is the size that comes in there, and then you get belt behind it. I stick it through. I make a little snip back here, shove the eye through. And I'm going to take this guy and just pop it on. Okay.
Ta-da.
So we'll do the other one. Do that just exactly the same way. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this in half. Try to find the middle. So I have to clip a hole in that so that I can stick its eyeball through. Okay, these I like. So these eyeballs, the ones that they have in the kits, they have a little point to them right there. Okay, I got some other ones which I don't like. And that's because they don't have a point at all. So there's no way to really shove this and work it through because it's so round. So honestly, if you can get the ones by the kit, then you just get them. But if you get the ones that have a point on them, they're much easier to work through. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Here's my little marking again. I'm just going to cut just the tiniest little spot. If I have to go back and cut a bigger one, I can, but I try to start small so that it just stretches around it. Works really nicely. Okay, and again, popping that on, pushing it down. And look at, he's coming to life.
Nice.
So cute. So cute.
I can see you.
All right. So now I might have put that on just one step before I needed to. Darn it. Hate it when that happens. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we might have a little bit of trouble getting around the next spot. I have a piece of cotton. Do you see it sitting around?
Gosh, no.
Okay, so one of the pieces I need, here's this one. So I was going to try it in cotton in this one, and I can't find my cotton. Oh, here it is. We'll try it in cotton, okay? So I've done it a couple times with this, and this works really well with just the Cuddle fabric. What this is a backing for his face, for his snout. So then what you do is you will be able to stuff just his snout. So this little back is super duper helpful, okay? I haven't tried it in cotton, so we're just going to try it today and see what happens, because I feel like the cotton is a little easier to see. So that might be less of a an issue for folks. Let me see, there's my bee. So here's my center of my snout. And I'm going to put my center up there. Okay. And then I'm going to work myself.
Oh, we're back. Okay, good.
And then I'm going to work myself around here. Pin this one at the end here. Oh, here's one of those pins. I don't know how it ended up in here.
Oh, one of those.
My little show and tell ones where the needle doesn't go all the way up there. I always call it a needle, but you know what I mean. Feels less like a pin when the head's falling off. Yeah, that's why. It's because I always think they're needles then. Yeah. Then I try to thread them and I realize that they're not actually a needle because there's no eye. Like, stop trying, Teresa. There's no eye. Yes, put the eyes in after you do this part. I always do this to myself. I'm like, this is why, like, so I always try to like memorize how it goes together. It's sometimes I miss a step. So follow the pattern. She'll tell you exactly what to do and won't put you in the wrong order. So we'll just work around our eyeballs there.
Quick side question.
Yes.
There's a little device or something on your Karen K. Buckley scissors. What's going on with that? What's happening?
Well, one of them, it's stuck from my other scissors. So I've got...
They're magnets, of course.
I've got two of them.
They're labels.
So they're both thread and fabric scissors.
Got it.
So they're from Kimberbell Design. And they're kind of cute. But, you know, they don't always work the way I want them to. It sucked it right off the other scissors.
They don't play nice with each other?
They didn't. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this. I'm probably going to get up here and have to sew it backwards because I stuck the
eyes in already.
The eyes already. Because the eyes are going to get in the way of the foot. So the other thing that she says in the pattern that you could do is just do a zigzag. I'm going to just try to stitch over my stitching from before. See how that's going to get in my way?
Oh, yeah. I see that.
Okay. I know. Darn it, man. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to switch it over. Oops. No, that's not what I wanted. I want stitches. We're going to do a zigzag. I'm going to move it over this way. So my zigzag is going to be over that side.
Oh, sneaky, sneaky. Look at that trick. You see that trick?
So
that was great.
I'm not, you know, totally messing it up.
That got you past the eyes.
It should, except for that eye's being a little bit of a booger. Okay, because all I'm trying to do at this point is catch that cotton piece on the back. So it doesn't really matter what this seam looks like. It just has to catch. And my foot pedal is getting further and further away from me, so I'm going to have to bend down and get that. There we go. Sorry.
Nope.
I was doing that thing where I was like, you know, crouched down and one leg's like a foot out there.
I'm not going to show that.
It's okay.
Also, it's cold here, right? So you are not barefoot sewing today.
I am not.
I'm not going to talk about it.
So you can talk about my new cute dogs. New cute dogs. So there, I've got it all stitched down. So now I've got like basically a little pocket in here. Okay. So now what I need to do is stitch across the bottom, and I'm going to secure this. Now this is weird because I've sewn this whole thing shut, right?
It's like, how do you stuff it if you do that?
I'll show you. So this is why I'm not really sure how well it will work in cotton. This is why I'm trying it. And we'll see when we get to the end. So when you cut it in with, when you do it with Cuddle, you can cut the backing and it's not a big deal and it's not going to fray. With cotton, it's going to fray a little bit, but we're going to try it.
It's sort of.
So all I'm doing.
It's like a baffle inside.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, like to hold because you just want to stuff the nose and you don't want it to.
That's a fancy word.
Yeah, probably. All right.
So I'm just trying. I'm just trying to catch the cotton here. So here's his snout over here, and I'm just going to cut a little hole in it. And I'm going to use that later to put the stuffing in. Okay, so that hole is just going to sit there. I'm going to make it a little bit wider. And we're going to stuff it full, and then we'll have to come back in and you basically whip stitch it. Okay. When I did it with the Cuddle, because the Cuddle likes to kind of come back on itself because it's a knit. I didn't have to sew this shut on one of them, and it was great. Okay.
Got it.
That was another cheater.
You could use
Okay.
use some
His
free
cute
check
little
maybe if it
face.
was on that little hole.
Right?
Oh yeah, he's
Coming
already
together. I know.
there.
He's adorable. I love his little nose. I just love it. Okay, let me put my eyes away. We were talking about the last time I did stuffed animals. What a funny thing it is when you make stuffies, because you're like, let me put my eyeballs in the bag. You know, like you get to say things that you would never otherwise say. So you can use that same piece that I did with cotton out of Cuddle, and that works very suitably. If you have a machine that doesn't want to sew a lot of layers, the cotton might be a good one because it adds one less layer there. I mean, one not as thick layer there. Okay. All right. So now we got his face. Let's add his ears, because then he'll be a thing. The ears, you want to make sure that your ears are going on outside of the dart. See, now he's less cute.
Oh dear. Let's not think about that.
So you have 3 darts across the top of his head, the center dart and the 2 on the side. The 2 on the side are kind of where you line up his ears. So his ears go right up to that edge of that dart. So I'm going to pin that first. I'm going to make sure, because this is his face, when this flips up, turn this around for you, it's going to be the inside of his ear.
Okay.
So I want to make sure
Double
that is
check
against
that.
his face.
Got it.
Yes. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin this down along here.
Mary, he totally looked like when he was inside out, he looked like a Tusken Raider. I agree completely. Yeah, it's a Star Wars reference.
Oh,
We're
got
going to
it.
geek
Okay.
out for a second.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, that pop culture stuff goes right over my head. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this again, and then we're going to sew his ears in place. All right. Let's go sew it. All right, and I'm going to move my needle back, put it back on a straight stitch, 2.5, and 4 is where it was at before. The 4 clicks over is basically what that is.
Okay, oh, you have it. Yeah, you have the needle set all the way over.
Yeah, it's not all the way because that would be a 5.
Okay.
But yes, it's over quite a ways. Okay, we're going to sew his ears in there. And that's kind of like the first, it's a base, it's putting it in. I do all of those stitches with a regular stitch length. I'm not going to use a longer stitch to baste. I'm just going to stitch them in. It's one more place one more stitch that's going to actually secure it in position, especially if it's a little one or like me who likes to tug on its ears. So, you know, come on, little guy. What are you doing? There we go. All right. See? It's getting there. He's getting there. Let's pop his chin out. Perfect. Okay. Just a cute little face. All right. So I just love him. All right. So now I want to show, hold on. So here are all my patterns. I want to show you. I should have had this out already. There's base, inner leg, all these little pieces.
That's an intimidating pile of pieces.
It's a little pile. It's not bad. It's not bad. But see, this is what's weird. Is like this part here where his face, like the patterns don't make sense at first. So don't try to understand them. All right, just go with it. All right, so now on this pattern piece, so this is something, so it has a mark here and his ear goes over here. And this is a way that you can kind of double check when you're going to sew this on that it's in the right position. The other thing is all of her patterns, she will have a dot, 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 dot line, a stitching line. That is the first line you stitch. So it's not the only line you stitch, but it's just a dot to remind you that this is where it's at. So when she tells you to sew from C to D, you know that you're sewing here, not here. All right.
Oh, got it.
So that's very helpful. If you're a little bit confused, go back and look at the pattern and see like, okay, so where is that first line? Right here. Got it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, question?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because I am confused by the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to cut it out on the material and stuff. I haven't gotten yet. But trying to understand the pattern.
It's a lot. That's why we're.
It doesn't make sense.
They don't often make sense. And like she was saying that the pattern doesn't really make sense. And it really doesn't. So sometimes like it doesn't to me either. So I just have to follow along very precisely with what she says. And I just follow her directions and then just see what happens. So are you signed up for the class with us? Okay, we'll go over everything. So we're going to sew it from here.
Having the tutorial
here.
and being able to watch her do it and being able to go back and reference this video is hopefully going to be a big help.
Yeah.
And you're going to get to take the class. So
it'll be good. So we're going to sew from here to here, just like it shows here. All right. So again, I've got it pinned, lots of pins, because it's so much easier with more pins.
you don't stuff the ears?
No, do not stuff the ears. She tells you in the pattern, don't stuff the ears or they end up like a little blob. So don't do it. I like that she tells you stuff like that too. You know, be careful. All right, so the ears don't get stuffed, and you can see they're totally good. She said if you stuff them, they end up with little balls here, which I could imagine is not quite as cute.
Right.
Because he's adorable as is. All right, so we've sewn from here to here, and we're going to leave this back open. So this is kind of a funky pattern in that we're going to have a back opening. Normally, if we're going to have a turning gap, I would stitch this with a stay stitch, but surprisingly, this isn't the turning gap. It's just going to help us sew it together later. So again, like I said, you just follow her instructions and, you know, in the end, it usually works out. I'll show you a little bit later how you can follow instructions and it doesn't work out because you didn't follow them right, which happens to me too. So then we're going to go ahead and sew this head together. All right. And here's the marking. So if I put a little pin in here where his ear should match, here's his little ear. I'm going to get that to match and pin it down. All right. So I try to just find the places that it has to match, pin those first, and then go in between. Okay, so now I have this big spot here. I'm going to go ahead and pin that on the other side of his ear. This is a spot that's going to be a little bit harder because you've got all these layers. So right here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of cuddle. So it's going to be nice and thick right there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin from this layer that doesn't have any stitching yet to get that to stay where I want it to. Those other 3 are going to stay together because they've already been sewn. But this one on the outside is new. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of that, the back and forth pinning. I'm going to come over here and do the same thing. So I'm pinning the end. Okay, where the 2 edges come together. So again, a way to double check. There's an N here, and there's an N here. Okay, so I know that those are right. So that's what all those markings are really good for, is just figuring out, am I doing this right? Is this the way it's supposed to go? Okay. All right, pin backwards a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead and pin this whole thing. So if you have a little trouble over those ears because they are so thick, you're going to want to make sure and do a little hand crank of your needle over it. That would be a spot that if you're not careful, it'll be real easy to break a needle because you pulled it too hard. Okay. All right. You ready to go over the sewing machine, Hawk?
Yep.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. So now we're going to go over here. Again, we're going to sew with the big part on top instead of on the bottom, because this way I can manipulate this stuff and get it out of the way. Otherwise, it tends to be the place that I get a little pucker. And a little back stitch here because I want to make sure that that seam stays. If it does this and it kind of sticks with me, I just grab my stiletto and kind of make it move. Okay, and I definitely do this thing where I sew and take the pins out as I go. If you need to stop and take the pins out, just stop and take the pins out. Okay, you don't have to keep sewing.
That's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't have nearly as much experience when I'm trying to sew Cuddle, and I'm trying to mimic her pinning behavior. I am absolutely going to run over my finger. I know that.
You try really hard.
So, like,
Thankfully,
you want to wait till the very last second to get that pin out of the way. Well, take your foot off the gas
Take
first.
your foot off the
fine.
gas. It's totally fine. You do not have to do it exactly the way that I do. that just plowed right over those. Okay, and again, it's the place we're going to do a little double check. Make sure. Okay, so there it caught it. Pulled down weird, but it caught it. Here, it cut it a little short. So I'm going to go back over that and make sure that that's caught right there. Okay, because that's his ear. We want that stitched down. Okay, so it's just really...
But no one would ever swing a bear around by the ear.
No one except me.
Or me.
Okay. All right, there we go. Look at it.
Nice.
He's super cute now. All right, so he's got a little face. Here's his little snout. That will all come together later. Pretty cute. All right. So now, we got that taken care of. All right. Inner legs, outer legs, lower arms. So let's take care of his arms first. So the arm has an upper arm and a lower arm. So you're going to cut out 2 of each of these for his arms. All right. The way that the bear is constructed has different construction techniques for his legs and for his arms. And a lot of her patterns do. Most of them are different. The way that they are. You've used her patterns a bunch too. You'll start to see similarities between them. Like this really reminds me of the elephant, the way that they get the legs onto the elephant. So they all start kind of swirling together a little. All right, let me get my pins. Okay, so you're going to put an upper and a lower arm together. We have little turning gaps on here. So the first thing I'm going to do, because it's Cuddle, is I'm going to sew a little stitching line here on each of those. That's going to be my turning gap. And that will help me to figure out, or to stuff it later and to figure out where my seam line goes. All right. So we're just going to do this. We do this with a lot of different projects. And we call it stay stitching a lot of times in the pattern. And it'll make a lot of sense when we're at the end. Oh.
Whoa, I saw that. What was that?
I don't know. It does a freak out thing every once in a while with the thread cutter. I don't quite understand. Isn't it scary looking though?
It looked like it would try to
having like a little seizure or
suck
something.
the arm all the way down into the machine for a second.
Yeah.
Hey, don't go.
Let me see.
I'm gonna need that.
Okay, that might have been the last of my bobbin.
Oh.
I'm starting to learn.
What the?
Oh no, it just didn't catch it. Pull it up. Yeah. So I got more bobbins. I'm gonna get that in there and get it to pull up. So I'm trying to learn a new machine, which is definitely not the easiest. All right, there's my bobbin. Close my case again. And try this once more with this arm. Okay, and again, I'm stitching between the lines that are for the turning gap that we will leave open so we can stuff it later.
I did not dress like a bear. However, the bear and I have the same sunglasses, which
true.
I probably can't show you right now because I'm not ready for that. But yeah, we're definitely part of the same gang.
It's totally true. All right, so now I've got the stitching line on both arms. And this helps me. So not only will this be great later when I need to stuff it and I have some idea on where I'm supposed to do that, it also helps me now to remember where I need to stop sewing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin this together and I'm going to sew this little bit at the top. And then I'm going to sew all the way around. So there are a couple places that you can match up. So of course the ends where we start and stop.
That circle is hungry for the pins.
It really is. Yeah, it's super crazy. The other part is here where I've done a mark. Hopefully I did on this side. Yes. So good. It doesn't always happen. I'm really good about make all your markings and then inevitably I forget something. Okay, so I put those together like that. Go ahead, pin here. So then, like I said, this is where I know I need to stop. So when I get here, I'll be able to see that. I'm still going to go ahead and give myself a double pin because I know my brain works better that way.
So every other pin, are you doing that from the back side again? Yes.
Yeah, so you can go ahead and flip it over. I just pin it from the back.
Yeah, her hand pinning behavior is, you're right. She makes it look very easy. And I know for a fact that takes practice. So you'll get it.
It's been a lot of practice. A lot of practice. And it does get easier the more you do it. I like the long pins because they're easier to manipulate too. So I don't know why I love Clover. I love both. What? Okay. So now you can see all these pins, but it holds it nice and flat. And that's really what I want. Because I'm not using a walkie foot either, it's kind of, I need all the help I can get to get it through. Okay, do a back stitch. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and stitch all the way around. So these little green ones are ones that you don't see very often, but these are the ones that are in the beginner kit. So if you see the green heart clover pins, they are just as good as the other one. They're the medium weight ones. They're like the red.
Right, and then you can kind of tell that because they have a different color of plastic on each side, right? So just like the medium weight regular ones are sort of a salmony color and a red color.
Exactly. Yep.
With two-tone.
So I got to the end of it or close to it. Doesn't really matter if I'm right on it. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch off the edge, and then I'm going to move it up here, and I'm going to stitch at the top of that the same way. Stitch over to the raw edge, back, do a little pivot, sew off the end. Okay.
All right, can we take a look at that real close?
So now I've got a little turning gap.
And it's all nicely reinforced on each side.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got this extra stay stitch line on both sides.
And
which
so then what will happen?
Come into play later.
Handy later. Yep, exactly. Okay, so we're going to do that. And then turn it inside out. So make sure it's caught all the way. Yep. So like I said, sometimes the seam allowance gets weird, and that's how much we care. Okay.
Is it on the inside? It's on the inside. Is it soft?
It doesn't matter.
Soft.
And that is one of the perks, truthfully, about making it out of the Cuddle fabrics, is because then it doesn't really matter at all if your seams or if things match perfectly because it's Cuddle. Just hide it. It's fine. And if you're doing it out of cotton, you have to be a lot more precise about a lot of that stuff because there's no hiding it in cotton. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead, fluff all of that out. It just makes a big difference because that is, just not as cute. I'm just going to bring it out with the little stiletto, fluff it up, and makes all those seams go away. And there's my little turning hole, which you can see it basically disappears. Okay? Super cool, right?
All right.
All right. So now what we're going to do is if you remember, those arms were different pieces. One of them was like this and one of them was like this. Now we get to do like this. And for all the quilters in the house, we're going to nest those seams, okay? The rest of you, we're going to make the seams go one way and then the other way on either side. Sometimes the quilting words come in handy. And then I'm going to go ahead and stitch that down. All right, and this is just a basting stitch, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zigzag it. Now I'm way over there.
Oh.
I'm just holding that in place. Whoops. Okay. So now I've stitched the arm together. So now it will kind of be this shape.
Got it.
So this becomes, the sweater doesn't come off very easily. This is how it's going to work. Okay.
I see it.
So that's how his arm is. For me, it's helpful to start seeing where things come together and how they actually work, because they will. You will need to keep that in mind. Okay. All right. So now we've got an arm. I think we're going to go ahead. I'm going to sew the legs on, and then we'll sew the arm on. All right. So now we've got an inner leg. We've got two of them. Just going to sew one of them right now, and we're going to put it on here. We're just going to do one side of this and show you how to do it. So this is where those pieces start to come together. So we've got an H and a dot and an H and a dot and a J and a J. All right. So that might seem confusing, but it just goes like this. And we're going to sew those curves together. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and tuck this under. So this is sometimes where the fuzz can get a little bit in the way and you can't really see what you're doing. So kind of swooping it out of the way is helpful. And also if I come in kind of over the top, I can see it a little better. Try to get all of these edges tucked in there. And we'll go sew that down. Okay, so the inner leg goes onto his tummy, the outer leg goes onto his back. Hopefully that makes some sense. Look at all those pins. That's where they all went.
There they are.
I knew I had more pins than that. All right. I'm going to stick it back in here, switch my stitch back to the regular one. And go ahead and stitch this all the way around. So just take your time with this because this is like a weird little curve. And go ahead and cut my thread. Okay, and then I can check my seam. I caught it all. That's all I really care about. Totally good. All right, so there's a leg, and then we'll put his arms on. Okay, so Michael has a picture for me to put up about how to sew his arms on. Do not sew his arms on backwards. So we're gonna show you. There you go. Okay. That's how his arms turn out if you do it backwards. All right. Don't do it. And of course, I didn't realize until I did stuff the entire thing. Not good, man. Not good. So what we want is the, I'm actually going to find it in the pattern where it tells you so you can see. Because literally,
Can we see the front of that pattern just for a second? The front page. Somebody asked earlier, and I didn't get a chance to get the question answered, but that is what the front of the pattern looks like.
Yep.
There we go. All right, great. Thanks.
Okay. So here's where it is. It's important to check that the stuffing gaps are not facing towards or touching the tummy piece. If they are, they will be on backwards. For me, that was like, oh, it should touch the tummy piece, right? That's how my brain worked. It should not, okay? So the stuffing gap, that's the important part. So here, I'm going to find my stuffing gap. So here it is. This goes on here, okay? And then it comes around to the front. So for me, this didn't make any sense that his arms were kind of going upward, but that's actually, because when you do it this way, you come around back. Okay, so this is one of those things of like remembering. So you should see the stuffing gap up top. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Important, because nobody wants to unstuff their entire bear. Believe me, that was not my favorite.
I mean, you had to tear the whole thing apart.
I had to tear the entire thing apart.
Yeah, no, we did not just make a swimmer bear.
No, somebody said it looked like an anime character. And I was like, I don't know that anime character. Okay. We'll go ahead and pin this down. We're approximating the marks that are here. That's where his arm should be within that space. Okay, so if you remember the pattern, this is how the arms go. Okay. I think I'm going to do this. I'm like, his arms go right. Yes. Okay. Oh. Bear down. All right. Okay. Let's sew this again. All right. I'm going to sew it from the back. You'll notice that 99% of the time, if I have to sew it, I'm going to sew it from where I can see the backing because I can see where I'm at much better from the backing than I can from the front. Okay. All right. So there we go. Got an arm and a leg.
So again, that's the tummy.
Tummy.
And it's got a whole arm on it, front and back, and only a half of a leg.
Exactly.
Got it.
So kind of weird. So you're going to do that to both sides. Okay. We're going to pretend that's done to both sides and put that aside. Okay. And now, I was like, where's my back? There he is. Okay. So here's my back. Wait. Arm, side, seam, space. Oh, we didn't do that. We switched forward just a minute. Hold on. Let me go back. I want to make sure. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to follow this and be like, that's not what she did. So let's do this a little differently. So this is the base. So this one, actually, I need to do the same thing where I'm going to stitch from here to here and here to here. This is actually the turning gap for the bear, okay, is in his base.
It's his bum.
Okay. So he doesn't
Bear
get
booty.
stuff down the back, and a lot of times they get stuff down the back, and this one doesn't. He goes from the base of the bear, which actually works really well. So let's go ahead and do those stay stitching lines. So this is the gap. So it's going to tell you in the pattern, it doesn't tell you to do this stay stitching line. It does tell you to stitch from the one letter to the other, which is O to S, and but leaving the turning gap open. Sorry. I'd like to not use the cutter, but it doesn't want to release the tension. Still learning. Still learning. Okay, so there's one. Go over and do the other. There we go. All right, and this one I did figure out there's a, what are you laughing at?
It's all about that base.
Oh.
No trouble.
No trouble is what it is, yeah. Go ahead and just do that cutter. It's easier. Okay, so I've gone ahead and just done the stay stitching lines. Like I said, in the pattern, it doesn't tell you to do this because it's just my little cuddle trick. All right, but it does tell you to sew from O to S, which is here to here, but to leave the turning gap open. So that seems a little bit confusing. If you look at the pattern piece, it'll do that thing where it shows you the little stitching line from one part to another. So we'll go ahead and sew that. And then we'll do the back. And there. And there. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew here and then do a little pivot and do a little pivot and up to there. Okay, and that's what's going to make it so that I have a full complete base. And I'll show you something in just a sec. Don't let me forget to show the full one, okay? Put you in charge of things.
Oh gosh, don't do that. I'm already three
Remind
ways
me about
distracted.
that. Remind me about that thing that you don't understand. Okay, I'm just gonna back stitch here. So I will say leave that whole opening. Don't think that you can make a smaller opening because it is a little bit it's small opening to stuff it a lot. I like to make extra small gaps sometimes. That one is not one you want to do any smaller.
How do you do the stay stitch over on the Bernina on this one?
I just did a regular stitch
Or
through
the,
one layer.
I mean, I'm sorry, the lock stitch. Sorry, that's the question.
Oh, it's a setting way in there.
Oh,
I can't get back to it.
It's
I have
buried in there somewhere.
It's
All right.
buried way in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, it was something I found in my manual that I was like, oh, I can change that. That's cool. Where that is now,
that
I have
manual,
no idea.
like, can you search it? Is it PDF or is it like
there might be a
physical?
PDF version. I have the
Yeah.
big book that came with the machine.
Got it.
Yeah, it's in the settings. Linda, if she's there, she might be able to help. Okay, so here's your base. So at one point I thought, oh, I could be really smart and just trace it out so that it was on the line and I wouldn't have to do a hole here, but you do. Like I thought, oh, I could maybe just cut it and then whip stitch it. That's a bad idea. Don't do it. So I'm just telling you because that doesn't work. And sometimes people think like I do, even though I think a little weird sometimes. Okay, so we got the base ready. We've got the head. We've got an arm and a front. Now we're going to do the back. So again, we're going to do that thing where we're going to leave this open from E to R and we're going to sew from R to O. We're going to sew those together. So this is creating a back for us. All right. So again, those little letters, they are important. Okay. And I'm going to pin this, show you. I'm pretty sure they don't match. This one's pretty close. I was like, when I hold them up, it's hard to see them matching. So sometimes I just lay them together like this. I can see my edges over here match. Then I'm just going to pin it in here. The more you can do with it actually laying down, the better. And that's something that's kind of hard for people to do. But if you just let it be like this, it's a little bit easier. Okay, instead of holding it all up here, which is how I show you a lot of times. But if you put it down, it's often easier to control. Okay, so again, sew it right up there. All right, go forward. I'm going to lock that one because I want to make sure that stays. So see, I can see that kind of push up, and if you'll notice, I'll just push it down with the pin. Same idea with the stiletto. And I'm going to go ahead and back stitch there. Pick up my pins again. Pretty nice. I do have
It
to
needs
say.
a sound effect.
I like it because you can like throw them and they catch it. It's the grass.
It's
so
the
great.
magic of magnets.
Okay, go ahead. So if I kind of flip these up while I'm going, it's better for me than at the end because then I'm like, I'm done. Oh, except I'm not. Oh, you didn't.
There it goes.
Wasn't quite far enough. I like it when you put it like here and there. Oh, yeah. It just can't resist.
We're so easily amused, everybody.
We are. Okay, so here is our tummy, right? Okay, so there's the tummy. You would have this on both sides. So we're going to pretend this side matches. Okay, here's your arm, and this was your inner leg. Remember that? Okay, so now we have the back, and we're going to do the outer leg here. Okay, so this is the way that you can tell which leg goes to what. These should match like this. They should kind of mirror each other. And then we'll flip this over. All right. Did that make sense? Was that too fast?
I think we got that.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and match this up. This is another little curve. It's a different curve. And I'm
what rewind is for. It's fine.
Exactly. Okay, and I'm always kind of amazed at how these come together so nicely. Okay, so again, pinning from both sides. And I'm going to go ahead and sew that together. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reference the pattern because she does something different here that never quite sticks in my head right. Okay. Clip the stitches. All right. So now we've got a front and a back that will mirror each other, right? Okay. And I've got my base. And then pin the base pieces to the tummy back pieces, matching O, S, and P. So right around. So O, S, and P.
Okay, so you've got the bum piece. Is that right?
Yes.
Yep.
And actually, wait a second, because this is when we might be able to switch over this guy. Yes! See, step outs. Bam! Okay, there we go. I love it. See, this is why I do this stuff ahead. We'll adjust a little bit. Okay, so we're going to reorient. Maybe from this side will be a little easier. We've got the
definitely in
inner leg.
Roadkill stage.
Yes,
right
roadkill
now.
stage for sure. Okay, so tummy, the inner leg. Here's the arm, just like we did before. Okay.
What'd you say?
Okay, and I've got my back over here with my outer leg, my back, the back sewn together. We're going to pretend that doesn't exist quite yet. Okay. First it doesn't tell me. Okay. I have to sew from here to here first. So I'm going to sew from Q over to here. So I'm going to sew the bottom of his legs. Okay, so I'm going to sew the bottom of his legs and over to here, which is, I think, P. Yep, P. Okay, so P to N. It's on the page that I already turned. Sorry. Okay, so we're going to sew the bottom of his legs across.
So with all these pieces and all these seams, what makes this a beginner bear?
Because, good question. Because what it is you're learning all the steps for how to make her patterns. So once you've made this one, you've learned a lot of the ways that you can do them. And once you've done that, you kind of, you have an in for all the other patterns. So that's what it is. Okay.
It's a skill builder.
It's a skill builder.
It's not necessarily for
the easiest bear ever.
Got it.
No.
Okay.
But it is one to learn how to work all the patterns and how to make it do the things you want it to do. So this was the piece that I just did. Okay. So his arm, his leg, the back with the outer leg, pinning those together, sewing this together. All right. That's what I've done over here. Okay. So these are the bottom of his legs that we're doing. So now we're creating the bottom of his legs for the base to actually have something to connect to, because that's the next step, is connecting the base. Okay, and I'm just going to stitch that all the way around. So yeah, it's not, you know, it's not a two-piece bear.
No.
But it does make a very cute bear that's very morphable. I really like it. So we're going to do that on both sides. This one has it's done. So I had a bottom of a leg, and now we have his base. Okay, so his back is really big. His tummy is flatter. Okay, so where's my base? Here it is. So here's my O. Here's my S. This is, again, where it all comes in very handy to have those marks on there. So I'm going to match that seam with the S on the front there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pin this. And then where this P is where the end of his leg comes. So that was that part, remember I told you there was a P at the end? That's the inside of his leg. So I'm going to pin that spot, and then I'm going to make it match in between. Okay, and that's the important part is you don't just start one place, start pinning, and then pin all the way around. You got to find the 2 points that match, and then go ahead and pin in between there. So the next step is going to be here, the back seam to the back seam of the base. I'm going to stick those in there. I'm going to try to nest them, just so it'll be a little bit flatter in there, a little easier to control. If they end up all watered up on top of each other, totally fine. All right, just makes it a little easier for your machine. Okay, so again, the pinning in between, and letting it kind of ease itself together. And this will give me plenty of room to kind of manipulate it as I'm moving. Okay, so again, the P here is the bottom of his leg. We just sewed together. Make that match. And kind of ease this in. Come on, little pin. Okay, and as always, I'm pinning just a little further apart, and then I'll go back in and pin in between. And that really does make it so that it will just lay a lot flatter. So sometimes this pinning really kind of, I will say, sometimes it annoys people because they don't like pinning that much. The other thing that you can do, and this is true of all of the Funky Friends patterns that I have tried this with, is that you can actually go ahead and you could hand base this. Instead of doing all the pinning and trying to sew with it, you could actually hand sew this with big running stitches and then take it to the machine and sew it. All right, so we're going to sew it this direction because this is where obviously all the big stuff is.
It'd be easier just to pin sections at a time and then do like one section and then another section versus doing that.
She asked if you could just pin like one section at a time, and you could. I have a harder time keeping track of it. So when I've been known to try that technique, I usually end up pinning the wrong things together and then not realizing it to the last side. And I'm like, oh, that didn't work. And then I have to take things out. I don't like taking things out. So yes, but it would work. If it was confusing, it's a lot of pins. And for a couple of them, like the Pete the puppy dog that we did in January I think it was that we did that tutorial. And that one's really cute, and it has a really round snout on it, like kind of a tight one. And in the class, so in the tutorial online, I pin basted it and sewed it just like this. And in class, we hand basted it, and it was a lot easier for people. So do give it a shot if the pins are kind of overwhelming, because they can be especially if you're just starting out. They're a lot. Okay. So again, I'm going to work my way around. This is definitely one where we're kind of, just going for it, see what happens. We'll check out the seam, make sure that it all matches and that I catch everything underneath, because there's a lot going on under there. Like
I'm going to come around to the back. We're going to get a new camera angle.
Okay. And I'm definitely going to use my stiletto and get this to come in here where I want it to be. And again, I can kind of stretch it and push things a little bit. If you get a little pucker in there, it really doesn't matter because it's Cuddle. Okay. Go ahead. Give it a little pull. One of the things that I was going to mention at the beginning and then I forgot is that she does talk about in this pattern about interfacing the fabric. And sometimes this is a question I get a lot about, do I interface the Cuddle? And I do not, because the backing is actually really stable. So I haven't had any issues with it, pulling apart or anything like that. So I'm going to kind of just go over this because I can see that my seam allowance got really small right there. If it got small on this side, it probably got even smaller, as in non-existent on the other. Okay, go ahead. Just kind of come around this again. And just make sure that I'm catching it. It is part that I like about it is I can be like, it's close. All right, well, let's just fudge it a little.
Okay, there's nothing to see over there.
Nothing to see. It's just a big pile of brown. Okay. All right. So there's a little spot. I missed it. I'm going to go back over that and sew it from this side so I can see it. Oh, I got a little pucker in there. Let's see how that shows. Not really. So I'm going to leave it for right now.
Let me see the other side. You blew past that. What does she mean?
Well, because if I were going to fix it, I mean, this got puckered right there.
Oh.
You see there the pucker?
Yeah.
And I'm going to be like, shrug. If I were doing this for realsies for myself, I would take this out and redo it. Yeah. But we don't have the time.
So who are you doing it for?
Nobody. Nobody. Just doing it because I love to sew. It's kind of amazing, though, the things that get hidden in there. In the Luxe Cuddle, it's crazy. If that were in cotton, there's no way you could possibly hide that big old pucker on the bottom. Like, it's there. Okay, so now I've got the bottom. Here's my stuffing gap. Okay, so that's what we sewed on the base. Now we've got the legs. I'll lay this out so we can see it again. So outer leg, back, inner leg, tummy.
Okay.
So now we're going to go ahead and sew these side seams and start at the top of his foot, matching where they intersect here.
Is that a barcode on his foot?
It is indeed.
You're jumping it. Yes, you saw something.
Yep. So
we're going to talk about that.
We're going to tuck his arm in there. She asked
what was going on with his foot right there. We'll get to it. Teresa had a brainstorm last night, and instead of sleeping, she decided to spend the night making an embroidery file.
Yeah, I get fixated sometimes. But I'm like, that's a great idea. I have to do it now. So that's what I did. Yep. And we'll show it. Okay, so now I've got the side seam. The arm is tucked inside. Okay, because the arm was basted to the tummy. We already did that. So now we're sewing up the top of his leg. Oh, I have to pin that the rest of the way. Top of his leg and up the side. Okay, so top of his leg and side seam are in one fell swoop. Okay, grab a couple of pins from here because I've only got one lousy one over there. A couple more. That backward thing to keep it nice and flat for me. All right, and then we'll sew up this way. And I'm going to back stitch at this because I want to make sure that this seam stays, because I'm going to come back around to it. I want to make sure that it's not loose at all. I'm going to go ahead and just come up his side. Okay, so this is going to get thick right here where his legs come together. So if it's a little bit of an issue, just try to swoop your seams so that they nest. They're kind of one's going one way and one's going another. And then you're just going to kind of work your way around this corner. So if in cotton, you would really need to pivot that really nicely. Cuddle, we just kind of fake it. Works out great.
Wow, that was the last second on that one pin.
What do you mean? I'm perfect about taking my pins out always.
I mean, I don't know that you ran it over.
I didn't, but it was close.
But you did get your finger in there.
Okay, so this one I can see that I have a little bit of stay stitching showing on here. That's where I sewed my arm together. So I'm going to go back over this and stitch just a little further over so that doesn't show. Okay, so this is the double checking time is what this is, making sure that it's all. My foot pedal is going to have to be gotten again, retrieved. So I'm just taking a little bit bigger seam allowance. And hopefully that'll catch it. Yep. So now I can't really see it. I've just got my threads from before. For those of you who really love to cut all your threads, sorry. Okay, really, I'm really bad about it, and I just don't care enough. Okay.
Oh, you go back and do it before you give it to somebody.
Sometimes I do. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this
Or
inside
she'll
out so we
hand it to
can.
me.
Exactly. So now you're starting to see it's coming together as a body. Okay.
Yep.
So, oh, I think I sewed that arm on wrong. I did.
Oh no, you didn't.
I think I might have did. Oh, maybe I
Nope,
did.
nope.
Okay.
You're turning holes on facing
It's
up. I think you're okay.
It's on the back. Okay.
Okay.
Scary. All right. So you can see this starting to come. It kind of looks like a turkey. The holidays are coming. Let's.
Not a turkey.
Okay. All right. I'm going to see foot pads. That's what she says next. Good. Okay. So let's do the foot pads. So as you saw over here, we're going to flip. Well, I'm not even going to flip it. This is the back side of the embroidery. So it's a little QR code that'll link to this video on YouTube. And then on the other side.
So this will end up being a store sample for Inspired to Sew.
So we have the other cute side. Goes over here. Okay. So here's the top of his foot. There's the bottom of his foot. These big crazy little legs. All right. So bottom, top of his foot. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark that because I didn't. Oh, okay. Let's see. Because we want to mark these, match these up.
I'm gonna say that the whole embroidery project distracted you from
It really
marking
did.
That was.
It did because I had to just try it and see if it would work. And it did. So that's great. It's also why it's not cut super nicely. Doing it really fast before the show started. It was nothing like last minute, right? It's when the best ideas happen. It's usually it is for me for Christmas. And I'm like, what am I going to do for people? And then Christmas Eve, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have the best idea. Yeah. Stay up all night. Okay, so I'm just matching these up. I used a tearaway on this, which I normally don't, but I was just dealing with what I had this morning. So you could use a lightweight one on this, but it will actually this will just add some stability to his foot and the stabilizer. So if you want to do that, so that is one of the things in here. So here we go. Look at the pattern. So it shows you on there that what the embroidery area is, so that you can do this. So the embroidery on the feet was not my idea. I stole it from her. I just picked what I should do on there. But yeah, that whole area. So it's a 4-inch area that you can embroider. So I did a 2-inch square embroidery, and that worked totally fine. The belly also gives you a measurement for what you can do an embroidery file the size of. And like I said, it'd be a really cute, like a memory bear sort of thing for like a newborn. Put their name, their weight, all that good stuff on there.
Did everybody have handmade teddy bears growing up? Because I definitely didn't. There were some handmade things. I mean, obviously, like my mom and my grandma, they sewed me clothes, and there were I'm trying to remember. I think I had a big knitted snake that was like 8 feet long.
That might explain some things. So.
But I don't think I understood that you could hand make a teddy bear until I met you.
And they're lovely. I really love the stuffies. They're super fun. Okay. Sorry, retrieving the foot pedal. Okay, so again, I'm just going to pick a spot. I'm going to start there. I'm going to work my way around, and I'm probably going to have to come over, do some extra stitching to make sure it all caught.
In the comments, do you all have like hand sewn teddy bear stories to share? Let's do it. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I don't think I did it. My mom sewed all the time. But I think stuffed animals are kind of one of those things that have for a long time been or seemed out of reach for home sewers. There weren't necessarily a lot of patterns for them, and they seem very complicated, which, they're not the most uncomplicated thing ever. But they are really lovely to do. And I think for a long time, people, if they did stuffed animals, they did them out of faux fur. And faux fur is definitely intimidating. And now that there's, some wonderful minkies on the market. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and take this out so I can see where I need to fix it, because almost inevitably on the foot pads I do. This is one place that you can, yes, I missed a spot up here.
It does not need a turning hole there. Is that what you're
It
saying?
does not need a turning hole at the top of the toe. No, okay. It doesn't. So we're going to go back and restitch that. But doing it out of the cuddle makes it, I think, easier for a lot of people to be able to do. So it wasn't just you, Hawk. A lot of us didn't have them. Only if you had a grandma who loved to sew faux fur.
Yeah, no. My grandmother crocheted and knit everything, but not so much with the faux fur.
Okay, let's see if I caught it that time. If not, we're giving up and he has a hole in his toe. No, I'm just kidding. All right, good. Did I put it on right? Oh gosh, I thought I did. We'll see. Whew. Okay. Oh yeah.
Nice.
There's this one. You are watching his tutorial. Great.
And you will be able to rewatch it. Show us the other foot. Show it.
Where's this? Oh.
Also, I have to be really careful because if my phone tries to automatically go to the QR code,
this will be a problem.
Because this actually works, by the way. You can embroider a QR code, and your phone will actually take you right to this video.
Yes. So I've got his feet sewn on. There's his base with the turning hole. His arms are both stuck in here. Okay. We're going to keep those in here. And now here is his little face. All right. So cute, right? Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this inside of here. This is the easiest way of putting these together. Yes. Yes.
What was the
Make
question?
sure his head is on going the right way.
Yes.
I've heard those horror stories.
Too close to Halloween for it to be the other way. So
the easy way to make sure that is happening with this pattern is that it has this gap and they're kind of going to match here at the back. Something happened there. What is that? Oh, look. I cut his head in his side somehow.
Oh.
I can't even see what I'm cutting. I'm just cutting randomly. So there we go.
Okay.
So I caught that in the little side bit. Yeah. Fancy. All right. So this is his open neck. This is his open back. Those match. Okay. So that makes it a little bit easier to make sure that you're not actually sewing his head on backward.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah, that helps.
I'm going to go ahead. It says tummy in the front. So I know it goes there. And also there should be some sort of a mark here that I could match up. Oh, I stuck it behind there somewhere. Well, okay. There is a mark in there.
But when you put that piece of cotton in there, it covers it?
It covered it right up, and I didn't transfer my markings to my cotton. So I told you, it always ends up getting me somewhere. All right. So we're going to go ahead and pin this. I will tell you that the necks are always kind of the toughest part to sew together because they're like kind of small and in this circle. So this would be a place that if you would like to try to hand baste it, this would be a place to do it because there are just a lot of pins that end up kind of going everywhere.
Hi, Frog Lady. I remember you. Cindy.
Yeah, from
Pins and Needles, right?
Yeah, Ohio.
Yeah.
Remember. Okay. Right. So now we're just going to kind of work this so that it evenly matches there. Oh, look at that. It's going to work.
I had a Raggedy Ann and Andy too, and I couldn't tell you if they were store-bought or handmade. So.
All right, so let me grab a few more pins here. We'll do a couple more in there. So I will tell you, the one thing I don't, the circle is magnetic down here too. So if you're not careful, they go like this. You know?
Oh, they show up on the bottom.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that's my warning to you in hopes that you hurt yourself less on it than I do. Because sometimes I do that. All right. So again, a billion pins. Now we're going to go ahead and sew this in a circle. All right. Ready? Let's do it. Okay. So I'm going to do this like this. So it's going to circle around like this. You could also take this off and use it around your free arm. If that was a little easier for you. Take your table off. So around your free arm, like it's a sleeve. Okay, go ahead and back stitch this. My pins got pushed in a little bit. I'm going to take a little bit of a bigger seam allowance just so I can make sure and catch everything. My needles keep getting, or my pins keep getting shoved in there. Because I want to make sure that I'm catching all of this, if at all possible. Just going to work our way around. This is why I like Cuddle. It's really like these seams do not have to be super precise.
They just have to be strong.
They just have to be strong. Yep, they have to catch all the things. And that's usually where things go a little bit wrong, is like they didn't quite catch it all. And as you saw, going back and restitching it is really no big deal, as long as you're doing it now. Okay. There's a little part that I have to go back. I'm going to do it from this side. So let me show you. Oh, some of them got there. Okay. Come on, little guy. There we go. So let's do it the other way. So it'll sort of fit around the end of the arm. And I'll get it from both sides. Because I don't know really, like, that one side is necessarily easier than the other. The neck seam is usually something I have to restitch always. That and foot pads. So foot pads I've gotten pretty good at if I hand stitch them first, hand baste them. But I don't like taking the time to do it. So, but I'm also generally sewing for things like this, where it's this quick sample. If I were doing it for, you know, a grandbaby, it'd probably be different. I just don't have it. Okay. Okay, there we go. I think we're good. Stick my thumb all the way around, see if I can pop my thumb out at all. No. Okay, so this would normally, this is roadkill stage.
Got it. Oh.
Poor guy. He's just like, you will be cute. You will be cute. So now I would normally think that I would use, like, my initial thought was that I would use this as a stuffing hole. And I was like, wow, that's a big stuffing hole. And then I thought, oh, I sewed it here to here and then stuff it here. No, we sew this whole back closed. Okay, so this is a little bit different than some stuffies that I've done. So we're just going to go ahead and stuff this, or sew this whole back all closed. And what that does is lets us have a really smooth back. So on a lot of stuffed animals that I've done, the stuffing hole has been in the back, and then you have to hand stitch that, and it's really visible. Because the stuffing hole is actually at the base of this guy, nobody really sees it. Okay, so I'm going to start up above.
Whoever's on the other end of the tug of war.
Right. That's when they're going to find it. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and shove this underneath there. Okay, and I'm going to try to get this to come up here and then kind of rotate just a little down the back and make it match up with what I stitched before. So down here, that R. All right. So now the back of his head is closed. Yep, looks like it's right. Okay, now comes the moment we've all been waiting for. Now he gets to be cute.
So when do you stuff the snout?
After you bring it out, because if you stuff the snout, there'd be no way to get it out that hole. It would be too big inside.
Okay.
So you have to pull this out first. Okay. Okay, this is always the fun part. Come on, little guy, do it. I did try to stuff the snout first, and then I had to take all the stuffing out. Yeah.
I love it that you do all of the things that we think, oh, maybe we could do, we could do that. No, she's done it. She's done it already. It doesn't work.
Didn't work.
Don't try it.
I do. I try to do all the things. Okay, so he's
handled that for you.
He's getting cuter. Look at, he's getting cuter. So cute. Okay. I really do love stuffed animals. They're so much fun. All right. So now let's pull out the stuffing. So we've got a little bit of stuffing. If you buy the kit from Inspire to Sew, that's available now, they got the Silky Polyfill, which is the stuffing that I love so much. So this is a Fairfield World brand. And I like it because it's really soft. So it's really, really soft. Okay.
And doesn't clump.
It doesn't clump, so I can shove as much in there as I want to. And yeah, it works really well. So at this point, I have to come back in here up to his snout and kind of with my fingers find that little hole. And then I'm just going to shove it in there. So this part is kind of blind stuffing.
I'm so nervous about the QR code. I have no idea what it'll do. My phone is just like, I'm going to take you to you. What's going to happen? It's going to cause an infinity loop.
Okay, it might. We'll try not to. So for me, once you get his little nose stuff, just kind of the bomb. That's when you need a bigger clump to hold on to. Because it's so like, look at how soft it is. Yummy. Like if you've worked with regular polyfill, it does not look like that.
Yeah, and does not act like that either.
No. So this is the silky polyfill. It's made by the same people. It's just a nice soft version of it. Okay. So really in here, it is completely by touch. So then I'm like, okay, so where's the hole? There it is. Okay. And I'm going to shove it in there, and I'm not going to worry about trying to sew anything up. I'm just going to stuff it full. You see his little snout coming along?
Yes.
It's pretty cute, right? Okay.
Is he ready? Is he ready?
It's really cute. But this snout, stuffing this, so now, like if you've done stuffed animals before, when you try to shove all that stuff into his nose and get it to stay there, it doesn't. Like I can pinch a half an inch under his nose. And so it doesn't work quite the same. So this is an easier snout because it really is just sewn like the curve of it. But this actually makes it so his snout stays full, which I think is super cute. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stuff this a little bit more.
Does anybody in the audience have any questions that we missed here in store?
Okay. No? All right.
We're doing all
we'll
right.
Get them all later.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well, just how many different kinds of cuddle are there?
Like about 1,600.
How many different kinds of cuddle are there?
There are a lot of different cuddles.
Or like this color and like the kind of orange and raspberry sherbet to make it there. And so I got it. I didn't even know what kind it was. And I'm sure it'll work.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Is it? You can just pretty much use anything for.
Yeah. So she was asking about what kind of cuddle you can use for it. I chose Glacier for this one. I think that's what you have for both the kits is Luxe Cuddle Glacier, which I really like because it has a really kind of mottled look. So even though when you see it on the bolt, it has a very strong line on it. When it's cut up into the bear, it doesn't at all.
Oh yeah, it's got, and this is obviously like a very intentional patterning with the way that it's finished.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it has a very strong pattern
on a blanket, for example.
It's beautiful, but it also hides in here because of the way that it's cut up. So the stuffed animals are interesting because there are so many little pieces that get cut that the nap kind of does its own thing. So I really prefer something that isn't super directional and that has some different embossing in it so that it will kind of go all the different ways and it doesn't really matter too much. It hides all your seams even more. You can absolutely do it out of something like a seal that is a really smooth one. You could do it out of C3 that's very smooth. What happens is you see all of your seams, and I like to hide my seams because I don't like to be super persnickety about them. So I don't. Here, are you ready to see his little face?
Yeah.
He's so cute.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Here's his cute little. Look at his little face. He's so cute. Okay. So I'm gonna keep stuffing, but I'm also gonna show you. Look, I'm just covered.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Not really. Okay, so if you go to the Shannon Fabrics blog, when we originally did, when we did that one there, I was like, is that an alarm? No, it's just a water bottle. That one there is the Calico Signature Bear. And that one, when we first made it,
he hangs out in the RV with us too.
Gail, who you might have heard us talk about before, Gail Camargo, she made him a little sweater, and everybody loved this sweater.
So the cool thing about Signature Bear is that his legs are jointed.
He's jointed,
right? So
which
that's
makes
really
him a whole
fun. There's
other level of not simple. That's a whole other level. But when she made a little sweater to match with him, and people loved it, so we made a little sweater to go on then the beginner bear as well. So if you go to the shannonfabrics.com/blog, you'll find a pattern on there to make your own little sweater. And if you get the kit from Inspire to Sew, they gave you fabric for your own little sweater.
Oh, awesome.
Out of the elderberry weave is what this is. And I love this fabric. And it's super cute. It has a little heart that you can applique onto it. If you want to pull that one, can you show the back side of it, Hawk?
Yep.
While I'm stuffing. So it has a little open, like just an open back that you can put a Velcro on there. You can stitch it up. On the Ben I did already, I just, I stitched it closed on the back. You could put a little Velcro on there so that he could be,
but you kind of need this to get him on, though. It's not going to fit over
It's not going to go over his head.
Got it. It'll go over his arms, but it won't go over his head. So right now, I think you just have a little wonder. Oh, you did?
No.
No?
No, the other one has a wonder clip. That one I just stitched it.
Just a little bit here.
Yep.
And then just left him a little.
My goodness, he's just so cute. So I can get to this point and I can feel like, oh, his snout needs a little bit more stuffing, and I can kind of stuff his snout just a little bit more. So I'm going to keep stuffing for a while, and then he'll be finished. But I wanted to show you this. So this comes with, let me show you what the pattern looks like. So the pattern is a free download. It looks like this. Okay. And then it comes with the pattern pieces. I just stuck mine on template plastic because I love that stuff. Traced it out. And then I actually hand sewed this one together, which worked out really well. So I did it as a running stitch, and then I went back over the same seam twice. So all of the seams were stitched one way and then stitched back the other way. And that worked really well for this. This one is the one that I did on the machine, and it's a lot harder to try to keep any sort of an even seam allowance because it's so little. So this one I just found it a little bit frustrating that this was easier to do actually with just a needle and thread and just hand stitch it. Okay, like I said, I stitched one way and then the other way. All right, so there's his little sweater. That's the pattern. You get it from shannonfabrics.com/blog. If you want to get the kit, which like I said will include, do you guys have a heart fabric in the kit? Okay, so there's a little heart fabric in there as well, the little sweater. You get the whole shebang, okay, including the stuffing, all of the fabric that you need, the eyes, all of it. Super great. So you can get that from inspiredtosew.com.
Do we have a front picture of the blue version of this bear?
Oh, I don't think so.
You're going to have to come over onto I Love Cuddle Fabric and find us there about it.
It is. I think there's also a picture on the blog. I think there is a picture of the blue one on the blog. So, yeah, because we did get pictures of him. So Michael can confirm whether that's true or not. So I'm going to go ahead and finish stuffing him. I'm not going to. Oh, there it is.
Oh, awesome.
There it is.
Well done.
Okay. The bear arms are stuffed in the back. So I'm going to go ahead and stuff his little arms so you can see how that works. So those are done separately. Some of her patterns, they will have you stuff the all of the appendages separately. So like the signature bear, that's the way it is. The body and the head are made together, and then the legs are all separate. The Izzy is the same way. So this one, they also have this pattern, which is super cute. He just needs his scarf. He needs a scarf, or I need to make him a sweater too.
He's a bear.
He's a bear. He really is. He looks very naked right now. So this little hole, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stuff it. You can see when I'm done, this will be super easy to just pull this together, hand stitch it closed. It's in the back. Nobody will ever be able to tell. Okay.
Don't do it.
All right. So we should have a winner for today.
Or two.
So we can get that. 2 winners for today for the beginner box.
There we go. We have Karen C on YouTube and Mary M on Facebook.
So congratulations. Please get a hold of us. Either send us a Facebook message or email us at info@shannonfabrics.com. Send us your mailing address, your phone number, all of that good stuff. And obviously your mailing address, phone number, email. That was the other thing. So how to get a hold of you, and we will send you a beginner box so that you can try that out. That fabric in there, like I said, it's 3 1-yard cuts. It includes a pattern booklet that has 6 projects in it. So if you're just new to working with it, it'll show you how to make a scarf and a blanket and a pillow and a block and all sorts of fun stuff.
And those are all skill builders, right?
They
so
are.
like if you got that kit and you did all of those projects, that would give you a leg up on doing these projects.
Exactly.
It's a
that
great
is
place
my
to,
point.
that's actually a good use of the word beginner.
Yes. Yes. So we will send you one of those. Also, all that fabric in there is usable for all sorts of other things. So have fun with the fabric. That's what we say. Have fun with that. So we will be back next week. I'm just going to keep stuffing Ben while I talk to you guys. We'll be back next week. We're going to be where are we? Saturday, Friday and Saturday. I'm going to be in Kansas City at Casey Maker.
There you go.
We're going to be doing like an all-day sew, so you can just come bring a project and come sew with me. It's going to be super fun. On Friday night, we're going to make a Santa pillow because, you know, I think I saw it's like 11 weeks till Christmas or something crazy. So we're going to get started on some Christmas projects. And next week, we are in Western Kansas in Colby, Kansas at Quilt Cabin. And I'm excited. That's going to be our first of a couple of them that we're doing apparel. So we're going to be making a poncho with Luxe Cuddle next week with the Luxe Cuddle Buffalo Check, I think is what it's called, which I'm really looking forward to. That's a great project too. So that's a lot of fun. And then after that, I'm going to be at Quilt Festival. So what happened to the sweater? Oh, there it is.
It is there. By the way, there's a note. He is missing his nose.
Oh, right. Oh, I have to sew his nose on. Okay. So this is the sweater we're going to do in a few weeks at, or one version of the sweater that we're going to do at Quilting Mayhem. So this is the
I can get
same-
into that, but it was going to be too hot for the show.
Yes. So you can have your own matching sweater with your bear. Okay. Super cute, right? Super cute. Okay, his nose. Let's talk about his nose real quick. Here it is. Okay. So I have brown and black. So it depends on what you did. When I did this guy, I did brown for his nose, and I don't particularly like it with the black eyes. Just, you know, personal opinion. So his nose is going to come on here. And you're going to pin it.
It's felt. Yeah, it's felt.
It's felt.
Which
So it
comes in the
goes-
kit also. Yes? Good.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, here we are where I start like patting things. Like, where is the...
Wait, are you looking for a needle?
A pin.
Oh, a pin.
Nose on wax.
Yes.
Yeah, after it's stuffed.
Yeah, so after he's stuffed, and his face is pretty stuffed. So what I want to do is get his nose, so the seam is right here, and I can feel it. You can't see it because Cuddle. Okay, and I'm going to get his nose kind of centered on there. This is hard to do backwards and upside down.
And that should be your
By hand, and so I'm just going to take a hand sewing needle and stitch around this. So you can see this one, I did some big stitches.
Yep.
Okay, just stuck it down. I have found that I like the look of the felt for his nose better than I like the look of Cuddle. Let's see if that one's felt. That one's felt too.
Felt too. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, because there was a question.
Yep. So the Cuddle tends to, I see the edges a little bit more and the little fibers. I don't like the look of it quite as much. You can absolutely do it. Izzy has a little plastic nose.
Yeah, where'd you get that? He's
I
cute.
can't remember where I got
Boop.
it. One of the places. So if you go to our if you go to the blog or the YouTube that we have about doing stuffed animals, we did one last year when we were in Billings. So that would have been like maybe September-ish. We did one that was all about how to make stuffed animals, and I give you a whole bunch of just tips on making them, and then also there are some references on where to get the eyes. So you can go to YouTube and find that. You should be able to find the link back to our blog that actually has a download for that as well, on where you can find eyes and nose and all sorts of things. There are a plethora of small manufacturers who make very, very cute little ones. So
some of them even like hand painted and
Yes.
super fun stuff, right?
holiday themed, all sorts of stuff. So stuffed animals are kind of my jam. We'll get this done. I'll sew his nose on. I'll post it up to I Love Cuddle later. If you are not part of the I Love Cuddle group, we really recommend you join it. It's a super fun Facebook group. So if you are there, we're just about at 20,000 people now, and everybody loves cuddles. So it's super fun. And you can join us there. All right. So next week we'll be, like I said, in Colby, Kansas. You can join us there. And also, I'll be at Quilt Festival in Houston. So if you are going to that, I look forward to seeing you there for sure. All right. Did we get everything we're supposed to, huh?
I think we're good to go. Thanks,
right.
everybody here at Inspired to Sew.
Thank you so much. Really
Bring it on.
that. Thank you. Thanks for having us. Thanks for sticking through and making a little teddy bear with me. I am so excited to be here. Thanks again for watching Sew Together Tuesday. Till next time, happy sewing.